they were starting it, but they never completed it. And I feel like if they completed it, there would have been more of a understanding for Colin's affection for Penelope. Good morning, Diamonds of the Earth. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about a type of theme or just the overall plot idea that I think really could have helped Bridgerton and their overall story for the third season. They were starting it, but they never completed it. And I feel like if they completed it, there would have been more of a understanding for Colin's affection for Penelope, even though I know they were trying to go based off of their friendship and say that they've been friends and that's why it didn't translate well. I think for the show, it would have been very beneficial if they did something like the Pygmalion Effect for it. They started it off. So just in case you guys don't know, the Pygmalion Effect is essentially it's based off of the story Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw. And essentially it's about, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he essentially molds a woman out of a sculpture and then prays to Aphrodite to make it into a woman. So Aphrodite blesses his wishes and creates Galatea, who is the sculpture. And then basically he and Galatea live out, I think, a lot of their lives together. I don't remember if she ends up turning back into clay. I think she does, but I can't remember entirely. I have to reread that story for me to remember. But I feel like with the way that they were going with the story, it would have been an awesome plot for them to really emphasize that he was building a woman that he would want to be with. So he was building a woman that any man would fall in love with. But then as a result of him building a woman that any man would fall in love with, he ultimately falls in love with her as well. You know, obviously there would be a little bit of issue because she's Lady Whistledown and all that stuff. So they could work around that possibly by going into the details of her already having some aspects that he truly enjoys. And it's just working through her social standing as like her social reactions with others, her interactions with others and all that stuff. I think that if he were to truly work on her from that regard, because she still wasn't really successful, I understand it's not going to be like immediate, but if they had extended the show a bit longer, if they gave us more episodes, I feel like they really could have executed that well. And then it would have made a little bit more sense that his affection for her grew so much. I can't really say from their friendship, but definitely from the fact that he created a woman that he would want to be with. You know, I feel like they could have gone to different forms of like media or like film. There's a lot of films that have the Pygmalion Effect. We have a few examples. My Fair Lady is one, I think. I haven't watched it, but when I was doing research on it, that's one story that kept on popping up. So My Fair Lady is probably one. Another example that I know of is definitely Pretty Woman. Pretty Woman is a prime example of the Pygmalion Effect taking form. And obviously Pretty Woman is inspired by My Fair Lady. So that's why I chose My Fair Lady, because it's inspired by it as well. We have She's All That. That's another example where the bully, or the popular guy, I guess, he ends up losing status because his girlfriend ends up leaving him for an actor. So he ends up working with a quote unquote nerdy girl in order for him to kind of like establish her in the school setting, and then also to help her become prom queen. So it's like all that stuff. He ends up falling in love with her, and it's just like a big thing. That's pretty much the Pygmalion Effect, if you guys have watched it. And then another example I have is from Hercules, but the TV show. So if you were younger, everyone was younger, obviously, but if you were alive when Disney had the cartoon channel where they actually had good cartoons on there, they had Hercules on there. And in Hercules, there's an episode where he ends up creating Galatea, and he ends up, Aphrodite gives the blessing, creates Galatea, but then, they take on a different approach to it. Galatea becomes really like possessive and like really protective over him and all that stuff. I can't really remember the episode entirely, but I do remember that episode very distinctly because that was one of my favorite episodes when I was younger. But yeah, those are just a few examples. I feel like in each of those examples, it is relatively the case of the people, the women, they didn't change completely. I think another example of this is one of my favorite animated film, Anastasia or Anastasia. Anastasia is still one of my favorite films. I don't think that's ever gonna leave. But the premise of that is pretty much a Pygmalion effect as well. It's just that the difference is she was Anastasia. So it took the effect of her personality being transformed in the sense of becoming more royal in essence. However, she was royal. So like, I guess that's where things can kind of like be wishy-washy, because she's technically is royalty. It's just that Dmitri was helping her, and Vlad, can never forget Vlad, but Dmitri and Vladimir were helping her to become like that person who she truly was, if that makes sense. So I feel like that could be an example of the Pygmalion effect, because they were technically transforming her to be a princess, but the outlier detail that everyone missed until Dmitri found out was that she was the princess and she was related to the queen, and she was the long lost daughter of the family, of the royal family. So, but yeah, I think that movie as well. I think that movie is really good at encapsulating the Pygmalion effect for that as well. But yes, I think I'm going to end this video short. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I believe that the Pygmalion effect would have helped to really emphasize the importance of social norms within the story. And ultimately, I believe that it would have helped to encourage a further growth of these characters' relationships. I don't think that the friendship to lover storyline was strong enough to be effective to convince the audience that it was an actual natural process, but instead it was more forced because of plot reasonings. If you guys happen to like these videos where I analyze real life events or medias with literature, then feel free to click on the right or left of the screen, where I'll be linking you to a 4B movement video that I had done earlier this year. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun thinking of the effects and how this Pygmalion effect has been utilized in other stories and how it's been executed in those. If you haven't watched those already, I highly suggest watching some of them. I'm going to go back and watch My Fair Lady because I've never watched it personally. And also, if you guys have any other effects that you think would have been better used within the Bridgerton storyline, please do feel free to comment it down below. I would really love to hear your thoughts, and maybe if I read some of them and I think they're really interesting, I'll go back and look into it myself and potentially make a video on it. But yeah, again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, my loves.